Welcome to the Resource Podcast, where we take a slightly sassy, fully feminist approach to creating healthy relationships and a joyful life. I'm your host, Tatiana Thompson, and I'm a licensed professional counselor practicing in both Arizona and Minnesota. I specialize in applying clinically proven techniques like EMDR, parts work, and neural reprogramming to help you see real, lasting change in your everyday life. Just remember, I am a licensed therapist, but I'm not your therapist. This show is for informational purposes only, and it's not a replacement for seeking personal mental health or medical advice. So join me now as we explore simple strategies for breaking toxic relationship patterns and applying simple mental health tools to your daily life. Learn how to take the small steps today that will guide you to your best life tomorrow. Hello and welcome to the Resourced Podcast, the show that invites you to question everything you thought you knew about relationships and mental health so you can finally break through your stuck points and create the life you've always wanted. I'm your host, Tatiana, and I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women become emotionally and financially independent so they can choose a relationship instead of needing one. And today's episode is very near and dear to my heart. It's very personal to me, because it's a path that led me to do what I do here. It's why I'm speaking to you this very moment. And it's led to the enormous increases in my overall happiness and well-being, and that of my family's by proxy. So today, I want to talk about what I mean when I say stop chasing, start choosing. And if you've been in this community for any amount of time, you've probably heard me say that many times. So today I want to give it some context. And I really want to use myself as an example because, again, that's my journey of how I got here. I have seen it apply to client after client as well, so I can see how it plays out for other people. But I will use my own self as the example today, which is going to be very vulnerable. And I hope that you will be compassionate and also see how you can relate to this. I really want to convey that I don't think that my job is just therapy. I believe I'm part of a larger movement. And we all can be. I could spend my days seeing clients and having that steady therapy practice, which I do. I have that, which is great. But I wouldn't do this podcast. I wouldn't offer these courses that I have. I wouldn't put myself out online. And it would be a lot easier, trust me, to just not worry about all this extra stuff. But I feel called to be part of the movement, and it's much larger than me. And it requires me and others to speak up so that more people can experience these changes for themselves. It's a movement, I think, to wake up and get off of the hamster wheel that we've been programmed to run on, to shed all the nonsense we've been told about how we need to change ourselves, improve ourselves, perfect ourselves in order to be lovable or safe in the world. That stuff's bullshit. We need to change that. I want everyone who is willing to learn the power of feeling their feelings, embracing their special gifts and their weirdness and their quirks. And I want everybody to stop dimming themselves to be accepted. Because I have finally learned that being truly accepted requires being truly real and authentic to ourselves. Being truly happy and at peace requires that we stop hiding parts of ourselves and learn how to harness the power of them. That's what shadow is. Most of what we don't like about ourselves actually is, on the flip side, our greatest strength, our greatest beauty, our greatest power. No amount of achieving, striving, or editing yourself, your appearances, or anything like that is going to make you more likable, make you truly wanted in this world. For me, I'm especially excited to be a leader for women in this movement to help them also stop centering men and stop settling for relationships that drain them. And that's so much of my own journey around this. I want us to start raising our standards for what we'll allow into our lives so that we don't spend our lives giving and giving and giving and never receiving at the same rate. Don't want to confuse this with saying that we shouldn't be in relationships, especially with men. I genuinely want for every woman who wants to have a partner to have exactly that. But I want her to wait until she finds an actual partner instead of a project, which means I am here to teach women how to stop needing a partner and how to start enjoying their lives just as they are. Because trust me, ladies, I know you know what I'm talking about. We've been programmed to need a partner from generations of financial disparity, power disparity, everything, the need of bearing children. We need support during that time. There are so many different things that have lined us up to literally need a partner, but we do live in a different time now, and we can look at it a different way, and we can behave in different ways. I want all of us to wake up and realize that the major things that we've been seeking through a relationship, especially through men, are actually things we can experience without them. At least now that we have that financial parity, or closer to financial parity, that we didn't have before. We don't have to have him in order to start living our fullest, happiest lives. Things like financial security, fun, travel, pleasure, love, adoration, being chosen, freedom, everything. None of this requires Prince Charming like we were told. I know that's really hard if you've been fed that lie. Oh my God, it was so baked into my bones, man. And I mean, there's still components of it there. I'm still on my healing journey as well. But if I am by any chance one step ahead of you and you'd like to join me on this journey, I hope that you will. This all matters because it means women who understand that they can live truly fulfilling lives instead of being drained by partners. Typically, in this case, we're going to talk men because of the patriarchal conditioning. We don't have to wait around and be drained by a man who never had to grow up or doesn't want to grow up. So, bigger picture, I guide women to heal their relationships with men so that they can stop focusing all their life force on finding one. They don't have to keep picking men who just cannot be at their level. They can enjoy their lives and stop waiting for completion through a partnership or through a man. And all of this releasing of that need, it allows us to create space to become our fullest, happiest, most magnetic selves, which ironically, if you do happen to want that man in your life, is the highest level you can be at to magnetize somebody of truly beautiful, high quality. But this isn't the end goal for the women I work with, okay? It's not the end goal for me anymore either. The end goal is her happiness, her pleasure, her joy, her connection. But it takes some real reprogramming to connect with this new reality that all of those things are available to us without getting it through the partnership. We don't even realize we have totally bought into the system and we behave based on it. And I know this because it's my own journey. I am not a therapist for the more traditional reasons. This wasn't my calling in school. It wasn't on my radar, but I had to do this. I became a therapist because I couldn't help not doing it. Because like so many therapists, I started on this journey because I needed the healing myself. And I'd like to believe, I know there are some therapists out there who don't actually fully do the healing and then they give therapy. And actually, sometimes they're great therapists. I'd like to believe I've done enough of the healing to actually be a reasonable guide at this point too. Trust me, I don't come up here on this pedantic stand thinking I know everything. I am still learning. I have just gone a long way on this particular therapy journey. But you want to talk like investing in the stock market, things like that? I'm not your gal. I need to go to another specialist for that, okay? So today I'd like to take you down the highlights of that path in my life in the hopes that maybe you can relate to some of it. And I have to acknowledge this is an episode that I've been nervous to record because it's very revealing. It's very personal. But I'm going to because that's part of this journey is allowing other women to see themselves in my own experience and letting you know we can release the shame for ways we've behaved that we didn't mean to or didn't want to or weren't aligned with, and we can move forward and still have beautiful lives. So for the purposes of showing you the pathway to healing that worked for me, by the way, may not be right for you, may not be right for another person, but I hope it will lead you to at least consider some pathway to that. But today I'm going to focus primarily on the hard stuff that I went through. I did experience lots of love and privileges growing up, and they've very much contributed to my overall stability today. So I want to acknowledge all of that, not only from the perspective of I have a tremendous amount of privilege and I'm not sitting here right now because of all my just hard work and, merit badge. But I also want to acknowledge that because despite the trauma I experienced, there was a tremendous amount of love and support in my household that there are a tremendous amount of things that my parents did right. But there was a problem, a major problem. As I always like to say, I grew up in a household with a lot of love and a lot of pain. So it was very confusing. And I think many of you can probably relate to that. My parents did so many of the things that correlate with healthy, stable children. They told us how much they loved us all the time. They helped us participate. We were able to do all the extracurriculars. In fact, we were kind of like, go do more, go do more. They attended all of our events and games, like no questions asked. They were there. They established lots of beautiful traditions and holiday celebrations for us. They told us we could be anything we wanted to be. They fed us healthy foods. They helped us move our bodies, and they gave us space to play and explore. So there were so many good things, and I really do want to acknowledge that. And if my parents are listening, to thank them. I truly do thank them. They did the best that they could. But we were also an alcoholic family with all the trials and tribulations that go with that. And anyone who's lived through that kind of childhood knows a little about what I mean. My dad struggled with addiction most of my childhood, and so my family went through all of those normal cycles of addiction. And adding to that, I was the oldest of three, and I was born with a very sensitive disposition. So you can imagine how that set me up to take on a very empathic role, a role of having to fix everything. So as a result of various traumatic events and big inconsistencies in behavior from my parents, my child brain learned to be on high alert, so very hypervigilant. I would focus on finding the way out if dad was out of control or scary, and I would end up becoming a partner to my mom when she was fighting with my dad, being that support, helping to stabilize the family as much as I could. Well, I don't even know if I was effective at that. My child brain was attached to that identity as a way of keeping me safe. As we've talked about in past episodes, that's what our parts do. They find a way to stabilize the household however they can, or stabilize themselves so that they feel safer. But unfortunately, this dynamic also created a very complex relationship with my mom that many abuse survivors can relate to, where the quote unquote safe parent is unfortunately also failing to protect their children due to their own programming. I do recognize that my mom didn't understand that she had other options or didn't feel safe to use those. But I do want to highlight this really amazing quote by Frank Anderson. He's one of the pioneers of IFS therapy. And it is that you cannot have an abusive parent without a passive parent. So we end up with this passive parent who's not adequately protecting us. We pedestalize them because they are the safe parent out of the two. And ironically, the thing is we actually feel like we desperately need them. This can actually create a really anxious attachment. I know it did for me. Oh my God, nothing can happen to my mom because life would be catastrophic if she wasn't around. She is my safety. This creates enmeshment, right? I am an extension of my mom. She's an extension of me. I cannot tolerate life without her. The tricky thing about this is when we pedestalize the safe parent, we don't realize that we actually have a lot of work to do around the grief and anger for them not protecting us. So we end up focusing most of our therapy on the problematic parent, the overtly problematic parent, right? And it's way later in therapy that we go, there's still something that's bugging me and I don't know what it is. And a good therapist is going to go, you ready to deal with your safe parent? You're ready to deal with the grief that they did not protect you adequately. Now, luckily for me, very luckily for me, I've been able to work through that with my mom and have healing and have her acknowledge that she didn't do what she needed to do with respect to that. Now, don't get me wrong. If there was ever a parent who could stabilize us despite that, that was my mom. She was just solid through the storm. She just kept plugging along and making our lives feel as stable and safe as possible. But we still were being exposed to abuse on a regular basis. So I'm very lucky that I was able to have that healing with my mom and that she was able to tolerate taking that on and going, I'm sorry. In fact, more recently, she's been an advocate for me and my sisters as it relates to our dad. And I do want to put that out to any parent who has struggled with that. I know I've struggled with not adequately protecting my own children because of my training as well, just like my mom had her own training. I do want to invite you to dive into the reality of what you didn't do, the pain of it, for your children's sake, but also for your own. Because when you own it, it magically allows your children to heal from what they didn't get. When we deny it, they continue having to feel the need to prove it. But when we can own it, it allows them to finally grieve and move past it and stop feeling harmed by it. So that's just a beautiful invitation that I know I've really benefited from as well. Now, I'm very lucky I had that healing with my mom, but unfortunately, I haven't really with my dad. So all of that healing has had to happen without his participation. And guess what? That's the magic here. That's the invitation for everyone in this episode. You can have so much of this healing without the parent, without the person who harmed you, whether that's a parent or someone else. And I will say, I don't know if the pain or the damage ever fully goes away. If someone knows the steps to do that, man, I want to know more. But it really does take you to a baseline of what maybe a securely attached person is at. My healing is not over, and it probably never will be, but it is so much better. And it doesn't just mean that I don't have bad feelings so much about my dad anymore. It means the way I behave in the world is profoundly different. Most importantly, I am now able to pick safer people, and I can regulate my own nervous system so much better than I could in the past, which really changes your opportunities in life. When you can regulate yourself, your nervous system, and then therefore your emotions as well, your whole life is different. You can behave differently. You can make different choices instead of being reactive. You can make calm choices. You can help regulate your children. It's a completely different ballgame. And if you didn't grow up feeling regulated, you don't even know what you're missing. It's crazy. I didn't know what I was missing. I just thought, this is life. This is what we do. This is what happened in my household. So this is normal, me having freakouts internally and sometimes externally. When I look over my life, I can see how much of my energy was oriented towards healing my wound with my dad. I was originally, as an infant, I was the first child. I was the center of his universe. But as life got harder, with more children, more expenses, he turned to his drugs of choice to cope. And I know that my dad had a deeply traumatic childhood that he hasn't even explored with us. We don't even know the level of it, but just from what came out of his household, we can tell. But as he turned to those drugs of choice, he became a bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So loving and tender some of the time, and then cruel and very scary other times. And it got much worse when I got old enough to stand up to him, which, side note, shouldn't have been my job. We're talking about that openly now, okay? But instead of hearing my requests and bids to get better and love me and be safer and get more connected again, my dad saw my complaints as a threat and started to have a lot of contempt for me, started to demonstrate a lot of contempt for me. So I really took away a lesson that I'm not allowed to speak my truth. I'm not allowed to ask for something different, or I will literally be in danger. I will be called names at minimum, but to a point where I was full on beaten at a point when I was 15 years old by my dad because I stood up to him in a drunken rage. I also spent a lot of my childhood in terror that he would somehow kill my mom, either accidentally or in a drinking rage, either drunk driving or when he was going into a rage in the nighttime fights. And it would leave me and my sisters completely at his mercy if she was gone, right? That was just intolerable to me. So again, that anxious attachment to protect mom. I'm not only feeling like I'm protecting myself, I'm also protecting my mom in my mind and my sisters. And don't forget how confusing this was. My dad was incredibly loving and fun and charismatic a lot of the time. And by the way, the outside world didn't really see what was going on in our house. So we were kind of crazy if we were to express that. In fact, oh my God, I remember one time he was drunk. I was 17 years old and we lived in a nice house by that point. He had done very well business-wise. And worked his butt off. And I think that's a part of the reason why he needed his drugs. He was exhausted all the time. but we actually had to call the police on him. So the police officer came, saw our moderately upper class household, looked at us girls and said, "You know, your parents are legally allowed to hit you, right?" And left. So we didn't have protection. We couldn't go to the outside world and get help because no one saw what was going on. And I have many other stories similar to that. This was so confusing. And I wanted my good dad back. He introduced me to music. Like to this day, I have a beautiful guitar he gave me. I have the piano that I inherited from him, whom he inherited from his parents. And they're some of the greatest joys of my life, and just enjoying music, not let alone playing it. I have so many good memories of my dad. But that's what made it such a dangerous cocktail for my future self. I started to understand that love is both cozy and unreliable. It could be safe at times and dangerous at others. It could be conditional at times and unconditional at others. And this was my blueprint for romantic love. And both of my parents, sorry, Mom, you guys both contributed to that. My mom normalized this as okay. She relayed the message that you just have to tolerate what men do. This is a relationship. This is the difficulty of being in a relationship. And my dad was claiming unconditional love while failing to get healthy enough to be stable with his love. So I spent the better part of my teenage and adult life trying to attract a man who would finally show me the truly unconditional love that I wanted from my dad. The kind of love that would commit to working through any problem because I was worth it. Because that's the message I took. I'm not worth it. If you love what you're hearing and you're ready to take your life to the next level, consider working with me one-on-one. I can see clients located in Arizona, Minnesota, and Ohio. Imagine where you could be 1 year from now if you start your healing journey today. Now, the problem with childhood wounds is that our systems don't go into the world looking for securely attached and healthy people to fix them. Nope. Our nervous systems are attracted to whatever was familiar, not what is now best or safe. So, what fun would it be anyway for a securely attached person to love you if you're really trying to prove that you're worth healing for someone just like your parent? Finding someone with those same issues and then motivate them to do the one thing your parent wouldn't or couldn't do, which finally proves to you that you're worthy of it, right? This is what all of us are doing with our attachment trauma. This is what we call trauma bonding. The broken parts in me are a perfect fit for the broken parts in you. We meet, you're not behaving that way, I'm not behaving that way. We actually don't even know this. On paper, we look perfectly healthy, but something in our beacons is talking below the surface, and I don't understand why, but I am so attracted to you and you're so attracted to me. It's because our subconscious wounds are a match. And so we are going to try to play out our childhood trauma together and try to heal it. It doesn't work out, unfortunately, but that is why that happens. So as you can imagine, I found myself attracted to and attracting lots of men with addiction issues and a lot of unresolved anger, unexpressed, misdirected anger, men who couldn't be in touch with their anger in a healthy way, who eventually it would explode out when they couldn't behave perfectly anymore. This pattern was so strong for me that even my first major boyfriend developed a gambling addiction during our relationship in high school. Like in high school, he developed a gambling addiction. That is wild. But that's how strong my radar was for addiction in men who were like my dad. And I went on to have major relationships only with men who struggled with addictions. And again, that unprocessed and misdirected anger and all the wounding and thinking that feeds addictive cycles. Side note, I have to acknowledge, I also struggled with my own smaller addiction patterns along the way because of the way I was raised as well, and my own narcissistic wounding. And please do listen to my episode on narcissistic wounding. It is something that most of us struggle with, and I think we need to demystify and destigmatize it as well. So please note, none of these men showed these tendencies at first, which is, again, why so many of us show up in these cycles and we feel so confused because it keeps happening. Again, they don't show it. We don't show that we're going to be doing that either. But in the end, that's what we're doing. I also want to make a quick note. Many of these men had wonderful qualities as well. And as I did my healing, the men became safer and safer and safer. But again, the pattern still existed of wanting that healing with a man who had addictive issues like my dad. One thing I think that I really loved is while they didn't show maybe a drug addiction at first or a gambling addiction or whatever that might be, they did show addictive tendencies. They did show me all kinds of warning signs. Love bombing. I became their new addiction. I loved being their addiction. That goes back to being the center of my dad's universe when I was a child. When my dad was on, he loved us deeply. He was so present. And so with new partners, I loved being their addiction in the beginning. I was their drug. It was amazing. And so I ultimately married a man who is so psychologically similar to my dad that it's actually scary. And that resulted in many, many years of being lied to, catching him repeatedly in lies. But again, that's what men do. You just stay. You have to figure that out. You kill him with kindness. You stay around. You be nicer. He had at least one affair, at least one, probably more. Struggled with his own addictions, which also affected our ability to support our household and support our children because it meant the loss of jobs, things like that. But that's what men do, right? That's what I was trained. Maybe if I'm just a little nicer, I could get him to care about my needs. Maybe if I was just a little bit nicer, I could get him to do what I need him to do. Maybe if I just said it differently. Maybe I should just realize that a partner can't be everything I want. No one's perfect, right? But the problem with that thinking is that it doesn't account for the difference between being human and being abusive. And as far as I'm concerned, there is absolutely no room in a relationship for any kind of abusive behavior, including repeated breaches of trust. That is an abuse, okay? Of course, your partner won't meet every single need you have, but my childhood training taught me to conflate abuse with natural difficulties that two people building a life together have. And so I stayed for years. And let's be honest, part of the reason I stayed wasn't just that, it was also financial security. I didn't know how to support myself on my own. Don't get me wrong. I've been working since I was 11 years old as a babysitter, 14 years old out in the world. I got special paperwork to do that. I'm a hard worker, but I never had modeling around how women could make real money that could support actually owning a home and raising children. That's another reason why my mom stayed. She never had that training either. So I stayed. And it ultimately took my body completely breaking down for me to start the healing journey that would allow me to leave. I mean, completely. I had just given birth to our second child 2 months prior. And suddenly a disc in my lower back herniated, and it caused the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. And it's the kind of pain that makes you question living because it simply won't go away. Add to that the fact that I had strep throat shortly thereafter, and then the coughing flu in rapid succession, all while trying to care for my 3-year-old and newborn all day and all night. And then my husband would be gone at work all day. So I literally at one point was hunched over, holding my 3-year-old's hand, carrying the car carrier with my newborn in it, walking into a doctor's office just to get a strep test so I could get treated for strep throat. And my back was like this because I was in so much pain. I don't know how I did it, honestly. There were times when I literally couldn't move and I had to be taken to the emergency room. It was truly the darkest period of my life. It was 3 months of hell on earth. But it was also the thing that got me to question the system I was playing into. And unfortunately, I wasn't listening. Guys, I want to tell you one thing. When you keep running into questioning if something is right for you over and over and over again, and running into roadblocks with a person over and over and over again, please listen before it becomes this. Please listen, because there will come a point where the universe is going to drop kick you and say, you're not fucking listening, and I'm going to make you listen. You don't have to go this dark. This is what rock bottom is, right? You don't have to go to rock bottom. Listen earlier. There's a reason. Do the healing work now so that you don't have to go through that experience, because I do not recommend this for anybody. But while I was laying on that couch trying to survive, I finally picked up a book. I picked up Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. It makes me emotional. It gave me enough of a framework and momentum to finally question everything. To the point even that I finally questioned my doctor, who, by the way, after 3 months still had not gotten me an MRI, just assumed this was some sort of birth trauma. It was not. Got the MRI, ultimately led to that very necessary back surgery that I needed. This led to my next win and my next healing step and my next healing step. until I found the strength and courage to leave the relationship, literally just a couple of months later. And let me be clear, this was not a straight shot for me. I didn't go from tragic overwhelm in a marriage that wasn't working for me to everything's awesome, not even a little bit, right? But that's because I didn't get to do all of the deeper healing stuff and the sped up healing stuff like EMDR and IFS offer, because I walked away from the marriage, but I still believe I needed a man for security. So I'm struggling to survive. I'm working as a mom with young children. Lots of other things come up. One of my children develops a seizure disorder. We have so many things going on. But I'm still chasing after that elusive healing experience with broken men, which is, by the way, side note, such a painful distraction. But I really thought I couldn't do it on my own, even though I was doing it on my own. I guess at that point, I didn't think I could do it happily on my own. As it relates to men, my underlying message was really something like, pick me, please. Somebody choose me. Show me I'm worth loving, even when I'm imperfect, even when I'm upset. I was the ultimate pick-me girl without even realizing it and being disgusted by pick-me girls, right? That's always the shadow, right? Whatever I don't like in someone else is something that I am also doing. This led to me putting my appearance and my sexuality as the things that I led with, because that's what I was trained with from my dad and from other men. That's what men want in a woman, right? So that's what I would use to attract men. And guess what? When you lead with your sexuality, you attract men who want to use you for your sex. That's it. That's not going to work out well. And I also behaved in ways that were harmful to other women in all of this effort to be chosen. Again, the ultimate pick-me girl. And to the women that I hurt along the way, I'm sure you're not listening, but energetically, I want to put out there, I am truly and deeply sorry for the way I behaved and the way that I hurt you. The me of today would never behave that way, but I know I can't change the harm that I caused. And this all feeds into the narrative, unfortunately, that women are given that men are the ultimate prize, which can lead us to hurt each other in our quest to be chosen. So we must heal our belief that men are the prize. I'm not saying men aren't wonderful, but they are not the prize. We must finally gain the awareness and skills to create a life that's full and rich for ourselves and with our communities. And that's what I spent the last 15 years doing. But like I said, I want you to understand that it does not need to take that long. I feel like I finally discovered those cheat codes when I did discover EMDR and parts work or IFS, internal family systems, because these tools allow you to actually heal at the source of the wound instead of like intellectually knowing what should have happened or shouldn't have happened. And like you can tell yourself all day long, I'm worthy and I'm lovable. But if you don't actually believe it here, you don't behave based on that information. Our brains work mostly on autopilot. So knowing something logically isn't very useful if our habits and beliefs don't align with that. But with EMDR and parts work, you can actually rewrite what should have happened, and then you start rewiring your nervous system. So you start to actually believe different things about yourself in the world. And when you believe differently, you start to act differently, and then people respond to you differently. Imagine somebody who feels really low self-worth walking to a room. You can tell that. You can tell by the energy that they're exuding. And that person doesn't get treated as well because everybody senses that. They don't expect to be treated as well. Somebody who walks into a room with high self-worth and high standards, they get treated well because they just exude the sense that they expect that and people respond to it. So when you believe something differently, you behave differently, you exude different energy, and people do respond accordingly. So instead of getting off that low self-worth or people-pleasing energy, you give off confidence when you do this work. You give off high standards. And you know who's not attracted to all of that, the confidence and the high standards? Narcissists, toxic people. They're looking for the people walking in with their head down. They're not attracted to you when you're like that. P.S. The best part, chef's kiss. You're not attracted to narcissists anymore either. You're not attracted to toxic people. They start to give you the ick. You look at them and go, oh. And then you look back at your life and you go, what was I thinking? It's actually pretty jarring. But it's also pretty cool because you're like, again, not here, not being attracted to it. Here, I am instinctively not attracted to it anymore, and I'm not attracting it anymore. My relationship with my dad, and then watching my parents' relationship for that matter, it left me believing that I need a man for security and to have the ultimate experience of being loved, right? That's the Prince Charming experience. I believed I wasn't really lovable as I am, especially with my imperfections or my needs, because again, when I asked for something to change, I was berated, I was in trouble, I was unsafe, I was punished. So I thought I needed to make myself better to be accepted. And I really ultimately believed I wasn't worth the effort. If I asked for something, I wasn't worth the effort. But with the help of great therapists, EMDR, IFS, I know in my core now that those aren't true. And so I treat myself with the utmost care and respect. I do that. And then by proxy, I don't let anyone else treat me any less than that. It's not attractive. It's not allowed anymore. And it has given me the insight and wherewithal to build a career that creates the financial security that I thought I needed through a man. Now I have it for myself, and I have that security for my children, and I'm teaching them how to do that too. I'm modeling that for them, that women can do this as well. It's allowed me to clean up my addictive habits as well. No more harming myself and sitting in a shame spiral because I feel so alone and scared in the world. It has allowed me to learn how to regulate my own nervous system and my emotions, which, by the way, the biggest impact on that is my relationship with my children and their safety. It allows me to model it, but it also allows me to hold space for them, to not panic when I'm overwhelmed, and it allows me to teach them to do the same. And all of this healing has given me the wherewithal and the skills to stand up for myself and for my children in the ways that, for example, my mother did not know how. I didn't know how for a long time. Again, like I said, there are ways I did not protect my children in ways that I should have. And now I know how to name unhealthy behaviors. I can spot them from a mile away, and I can set boundaries. If it's too unhealthy and there's no need for you to be in my life, you're not. I have very high standards now, and so do my children, which is the coolest thing. Coolest thing. So the hope is that at least this cycle is broken for them. Although don't worry, they still have lots to process because, like I said, I didn't protect them perfectly, and I'm a human, so I wasn't able to be the perfect parent for them. But now I am happy enough in myself that I can tolerate their feedback, and I'm willing to process their anger and grief with them. If they want, I've asked them multiple times, they have their own therapist. You ever want to bring me in and just hold me to the grill for the things that I've done? I'm there. I will hold space for it. I am sorry for what I've done. I am sorry I haven't been what you needed every step of the way. And when I make mistakes still, I can own them. It is so freeing to do that. So all this to say, I actually love myself now. That feels good to say. And it allows me to love others more fully. It also allows me to have more compassion for others who aren't yet safe to be in relationship. But it does allow me to have zero tolerance for being in relationship with them myself anymore. And the reason all this matters is to me is that now I can stay calmer in the storm. I can be more present with my loved ones. I've been through so many random things in the past 2 weeks, like my daughter going to the ER, very scary event, adopting a new dog, having car issues, supporting a family member going through even more, all kinds of stuff on top of full-time work, full-time everything, right? But I was able to stay stable through all of it. I didn't go into my victim mentality because that's another thing I took away from all of this. There's always something else. And I'm being punished because I was punished so much from my dad as a child. I really didn't believe that the people who were supposed to want the best for me did want the best for me. I knew that if I stepped over any lines, I would be punished. So I've believed that growing into adulthood, that I will be punished for any mistakes, any wanting too much. So all of that has led me to just be so dysregulated. But now I can be the calm in the storm. Does it mean I'm always perfectly calm? Of course not. But it means I can put it into perspective and look down on myself and go, hey, this is hard. We're going to get through it and we'll spend some time processing it later. But right now we can stay stable and take the next action that needs to be taken. Even better, I can be more present with my loved ones. I'm not just in frantic go mode all the time. Fix this, hypervigilance, that, everything. I can stop and be with them and have fun. I can also experience joy when it shows up. Joy is not something you get to design or plan. It shows up and you need to be ready to receive it and accept it. It might be a 5-second moment. It might be a full day. But oh my God, that's why we're here, is to experience that joy. So when it shows up, be open and receptive to it. Actually be able to perceive it and enjoy it and sigh and let it in. And now, with all of that, I can do all the things in my life that I've always wanted to do, but that I thought I was waiting on someone else to make possible, to rescue me or to make it happen or to make it amplified. I can actually fully enjoy them now myself. So what does that mean? Let's go back full circle. It means I've stopped chasing a man, a corrective experience with my father, some way of feeling safe in the world. I'm not chasing that anymore, at least not at the level that I used to. Again, I'm still on my journey. I'm not perfect. I'm not all healed. Nobody ever will be. But I've stopped trying to prove my worth in an attempt to get safety and acceptance. And in turn, I've started choosing what I want and who and what gets to be in my life. I am not chasing it. I am not begging. I am not in this grab, please, please, please energy. I am sitting back in my full adult goddess self and saying, I am worth it and I'm good right here. And if you want to be a part of that, great. And not all people, but I am choosing who gets to come in, not begging people to come in. No more chasing. I am choosing them now. And here are some demonstrable ways to measure that. Now I am a homeowner by myself. As a single mother, a divorced mother, that is different than single mother. I'm a homeowner. I'm a landlord. I am a licensed professional and business owner, successful business owner. I am an imperfect yet present and compassionate mother. I am a dog mom. I am a world traveler even without a partner. And I have amazing friends, family, and community. Oh, and I have my health. I'm healthier now at 46 than I was in my early 20s because I'm listening to my body and I love myself so much that I honor what I actually need, not from a dieting and whatever perspective, but from a I love myself and I want to have a good long life perspective. And I'm so satisfied in my life now that I would rather be single until someone who is a good match and a true equal presents himself to me. And what freedom is that? And maybe that shows up and maybe it doesn't. I would love if it does, but my life is so full that it's okay if it doesn't. I don't think I could ever say that before. So I am on this mission to share these tools so that everyone who wants to use them can. I want to show you that this new way of being in the world is both possible and so much more enjoyable. I'm not talking about white knuckling it through life. I'm talking about actually feeling safer and calmer and happier. Because if you can relate to any part of my story, I genuinely hope that you will join me and everyone else who's part of this healing movement in the world. Because I genuinely believe that the world can be healed one person at a time. In fact, I think it's the only way that we'll ever disengage from the harmful practices that we do as a species, from greed and war, to domestic violence, to suicide, to poisoning our bodies, all the way down to hurting our loved ones. Healthy people who have healed their trauma don't harm other people or take at the expense of others. So not only am I on a mission to help women stop relying on men and find happiness on their own terms, I'm on a mission to help every single person who wants to heal and do so. So any gendered person, talk to me. If you want to do one-to-one work, come let me know. If I can be a part of your journey, I'm so glad to do that. And if I'm not the right resource for you, that's okay. I hope my words can help direct you to the healing style that is right for you. Find another resource. That is great. Just do the work, do the healing, because the work is worth it. It doesn't even feel like work after a while. But either way, I hope you continue to mend your wounds so that you can create a better life for yourself and ripple that out into the greater world. And that also means that I want you to stop chasing and start choosing. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Resourced Podcast. My hope is that you learned at least one practical tool you can apply to your life today to move in the direction of your dreams. If you found this content helpful, be sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and consider subscribing to my email list, which is linked in the show notes. And remember, The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What step will you take today?